Okay, I really like the energy. Marketing people like that energy. I want to tell you a little story about something, and then I'm going to ask you to do something, okay? And the first thing I want to talk about is when I was over taught in Korea, in Asian Korea, and we had a classroom, with doors on each side, etc. And the students would, as soon as they start gravitating all the way to the back of the room, okay? You guys see that? I every time I had a lecture on wheels, and I walked back with it. I was like, oh, what's going on in the back half of the room, okay? Because you know what? There was nothing better in the back half. As instructors, we like to see people up close because one can see them, talk to them, interact with them, know that they're doing stuff. I'm really committed to that. Okay, so here's where we're going to do something. Don't jump the gun. Okay, somewhere in the first row here, I take the $20 bill from the bottom. Somewhere in this row, there's a $10 bill. In this chair, in each chair, there are two $5 bills. Come on, you guys. Take some risks. Who wants to move up here and take some money? Don't do it yet. Hold on. Don't go looking. Don't you go looking. I said don't look yet, but move on up. Some lucky people are going to get this. Come on. Who wants the money? It's like the lottery. Oh, yeah, right.
Where was that back when we were in class?
There you go. You got money. All right, moving up. It's only the first 3 rows. That's where it is. And if you guys don't grab it, Terry's going to grab it. All right. Move it in. All right. Ready? Look and see if you want. Go. Check. See. You got one? Russ got one. Oh, you got one?
I thought he was just joking.
Julianne, go to the third row. Somebody's empty. It's your money. Nobody took it.
Yo, what's under? I know you laid down in these arch chairs too.
You have to go under the table for yours.
I love my gift bag.
You guys got it? Okay. Welcome to the front of the room. Okay? So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give the floor back to Carrie for a couple seconds. She's going to do some introductions, tell you about the program. And then we're going to come in here, we'll do some stuff. We'll talk with our panelists. They will give you some information in general. If you're listening, taking notes if you can. Then there'll be questions and answers from you guys to ask the panelists, because you probably didn't get a chance to talk to all of them. And afterwards, we'll break up after that, after about half an hour or so. And you'll have a chance to come up and network again with these people, okay? And so your job should be this. You should be looking at and thinking about what are the things that they're saying, okay? And you need to be thinking about what is it that you want to ask. I'll tell you one more thing about that money under the chair. And that's like the job hunt, okay? If you just stay in the back of the room, nothing's going to happen. You move up front, you take a little opportunity, you move out of your comfort zone, and you get a reward. $20 bill, okay, but you also want a job. That's what this is about, okay? So you got to take a little bit of initiative, and that's what you should be learning and thinking about here, because you guys all take initiative, you guys all take risks. See, it's
You get a
successful.
lot more $20 bills when you get the job.
Okay, let me pass it over to Carrie then.
Well, thank you very much. A lot of you know me. My name is Carrie Willigan. I'm the Assistant Dean for Career Services in the School of Business. We're thrilled to have you here. And we have this wonderful panel lined up for you. They are here to talk to you. They're not here to talk to me or my team. They're here to talk to you. So like Professor Kulik said, take chances. Ask those questions, okay? I do ask that if you have your phone, make sure you have it on silent and give the respect to the panelists, okay? The longer you stay, the better your chances are. I know some people have classes, and we understand that, but if you have to leave for a class, if you could just leave quietly. And I want you to enjoy it. This is the second. We have the second in the spring panel series. We have 5 more coming up, so keep an eye out for the other 5. I think they're probably rolling up here for you. So I'm going to turn it back over to Professor Kulik, and I want to thank the panelists very much for coming out. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Now, first thing I'm going to do is go down here, ask them to introduce themselves to you, for those of you you didn't meet, and just sort of listen to what's going on and what they can tell you. And they're all fantastic people. I've talked to all of them. Michael.
Just name a title and
whatever you want. Tell us something fantastic about you.
Are we on? How are you today? Good. I'm Michael Gallagher. I'm the founder and the president of the Stevie Awards, and I got my MBA here at Mason in 1994. I didn't start my MBA program until I was 31 years old. I got my undergraduate at Fordham University in New York City, where I grew up, and went to work for, in 1988, my wife looked at me and said, "We have to get out of New York City. It's too crazy here." and we moved to this area because her brother lived down here. And I went to work for a trade show management company in Alexandria. And I was having a dispute with the CEO one day, and he looked at me and said, "What do you know that I don't know?" And I went home that night and I said, I better find out what I don't know. So I came back and I got my MBA. So I was it took me 5 years part-time to get my MBA. And once I got my MBA, I just started to start my own company. And what we do is we put on business awards programs around the world. If you think of the Oscars for movies and the Tonys for plays and the Emmys for television, the Stevies are for business. We do 7 different business awards programs. So it's like the Oscars for business. We have awards for new products and for achievement in marketing and management and customer service and so on. So that's what we do. I've been involved with the alumni chapter of the business school since 2009. I've been president, and I've been the head of the events committee for the chapter, and right now I'm the fundraising chair. I raise money for the annual business celebration every October that we have about 300 alumni and other people come to. When you graduate, I advise you to get involved with the alumni chapter in one form or another. It's a great way to stay in touch with your classmates and to meet other alumni who are very willing to help you. So thank you for having me today. And I have lots of questions for you, but I'll turn it over to the rest of the panel first.
Yeah, Ricio. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ricio Tantoko. I graduated here in December of '91 with accounting. And I've lived here in the city of Fairfax for 40 years. I'm 51 years old. Let's see. I was involved with the accounting club. I was involved with Beta Alpha Psi and Accounting Honor Society. Barely, right? I graduated with 3.2 because I prefer to go out and have fun instead of studying. I did not like to study. Let's see. And my employer, Ernst & Young, Lockheed Martin. Oh, that's a good one. So when I got a job with Lockheed Martin, I was working at Arthur Andersen at the time, and Lockheed Martin was paying for my master's in tax law here. And I graduated with that in 1999. And I was working at Andersen, and I don't know if you know this, but Arthur Andersen is gone. It's a big international CPA firm with the Enron. And I told Lockheed I didn't know if I wanted to come work for them. They said, well, how about if we give you $15,000 just to accept our job offer, right? At that point, this was 1998, and I graduated here in 91. And in 91, there was kind of like a recession going on, the real estate bubble back in 1989. Anyway, so I accepted that job offer because of the $15,000, and I bought the house in Mosby Woods, not far from here, right behind PJ's Cadoos. I went to Fairfax High School. I married my high school sweetheart. My daughter now is 11th grade at Fairfax High School, and I've been divorced now for 4 years. That's the American dream, right? Get married, have 2 kids, and then get divorced. Where I am today, it's been a good life, right? I just bought a 2019 Corvette. I just bought my daughter a brand new Ford Focus. She's 16 years old, right? And then I bought her mother a brand new car. So life has been good to me, right? From graduating here, from being involved, from networking, from getting out of my comfort zone, right? I mean, what helped me a lot was I waited tables. That just helped me talk to people when I was younger. Anyways, I love George Mason, right? I've been working 27 years, and I have no plans to slow down, right? My dad is an accountant. He's 86 years old. He just stopped working about a year ago, right? Working is his hobby, so a strong work ethic, a great attitude. I love people, right? It helps to love people, and it helps to have a great attitude and have energy, right? Because when I'm I've changed jobs 13 times, right? 2 of the companies rehired me 10 years later, right? It's because I've always maintained a good attitude. I don't get sucked into the negative, because you're going to get that with friends, with coworkers. You're going to hear negativity. I do not engage with that stuff. I engage with positive people. Anyways, thank you.
Okay. So if you need a car, he's in the car buying mood. He'll buy you a car.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Emily Hugel. I am a Mason alum. I graduated 2 years ago in 2017, so I'm a fairly new graduate. But I'm so excited to be back here and talking with all of you guys. Currently, I work at Oracle. So if anyone's interested in pursuing the Fortune 100 tech space world, I'd love to talk about my experience in the space. And I'm the marketing and demand generation lead for cloud technologies. So anything related to cloud that Oracle sells and creates. I am the marketing point person for the Southeast region. I have a team of 8 people that help me out and about 85 engineers under me that build and design really innovative and exciting cloud technologies. So it's a fun space to work in. Before that, I was still in the big corporate crazy world at Discovery Channel doing corporate communications and PR. So media and entertainment was a completely separate world, but a really great learning experience. In my senior year of college, I was part-time at Mason and full-time working in Tyson's at a software company there. So I've kind of hopped all around very quickly, even though I just graduated. But I'm having a lot of fun, and Mason's a really, really great place. The business school here, you have incredible resources, and as someone that was just here sitting in those seats that you guys are in, 3-4 years ago, I can tell you you're in a really great space. And you all have a really exciting future to look forward to. So be aggressive. Use the people that are here that work for the business school that want to help you, and ask hard questions today, and figure out how we all got where we are. And in a couple years, you'll be sitting up here too.
Hi, everyone. My name's Brian Riley. I graduated from George Mason back in 2014, so I guess I'm approaching 5 years now that I've been out, and kind of crazy, but even crazier to be back here. I've been back here in a little while, but for me, I was a marketing major here. I always just wanted to go out and make money. That was my motivation. Maybe many of you in the audience want to go out there and just make some money. That was my thing. So for me, when I graduated, well, I guess it was during high school, I got involved in the restaurant business, serving. Just loved the idea of controlling my own destiny, my own income, going out and making my own things happen. If I wanted to work harder, I could make more. If I didn't want to work as hard, well, I'd deal with whatever those results were too. So, so I basically was one of the more boring college students probably. I commuted to school here at Mason for 4 years, worked about 40 hours a week for about three and a half of those years. Ended up marrying my high school sweetheart, and she was a workaholic too, I guess, so it made sense for us. But I now, actually, because of Jeff, or Professor Kulik, actually referred me over to where I work now. I was actually interviewing a few other places involved in sales that was probably more B2B focused, or like product focused, into Alku. So Alku is a subcontracting partner. What does that mean? We work with large defense contractors, namely Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Mantech, companies such as those. Develop relationships with them for their awarded contracts, and we develop staffing options and help for them for most of their high-level and high-clearance-related positions involving some customers like Langley CIA, NSA, NGA, DIA. So generally TSSCI and above clearances, if anyone's familiar with the clearance landscape, and polygraph-related clearances. So what's cool about it, I am not cleared. I don't get to go out and target anyone anywhere, but our employees do. But it's cool to be a part of that, because one way or another, I feel like I am part of the national defense space. The other piece that I love is still that idea that I can go out and work really hard. I can make a bunch of money, develop a bunch of really great relationships, and for me, bring some money back to the family. But the job's given me a bunch of options to kind of do what I want to do. At this point, I now manage a division focused on information security, software, and testing within the company. And we've grown from about $500,000 when I started about 5 years ago to now about a $13 million division that I work within, and the company overall has grown from about $30 million to about $200 million in the past 5 years, and I think we're budgeted to hit about $300 million this year. So fantastic growth. We're always looking to hire, looking for highly motivated students, people either intern, work full-time. So if anything I've said is maybe a little interesting, love to talk to you more about it, but that's me.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to keep mine kind of short. My name is Shawn T Barber. I graduated from good old Mason in 2004 as a marketing major. I was very involved at Mason. I was orientation leader. I was vice president of AMA, the American Marketing Association. I also worked for the School of Business as a marketing intern, and I did a lot of other clubs and organizations. So I was very involved at Mason. At Mason, I worked at Career Services. Yeah. And back then, it was a job site. I can't remember the name. I think it was. No, I'm way back before then. It was like Painted Job or something. So I saw the job at US GSA, General Service Administration, as a contracting specialist. I never heard of contracting. I was like, you know what? I don't want to go back home. I'm going to apply to this job and pray that I get it. And my prayers was answered. I received a job. Great experience. So yes, I do work for the federal government. People are asking me now during the last couple of months, I can't believe you're not looking for another job. You know what's going on with the federal government. But my belief is you cannot leave when stuff gets tough, okay? If you always leave when stuff gets tough, then you'll never stay anywhere, okay? So you got to stay and see the bright side. I have been with the government for almost 15 years in July, you all, and I have seen us shut down. Thank you. I have seen us shut down, seen so many different presidents between, and we always get through it, okay? So that's my motto. It's like, you know what, we're going through stuff right now, but we're going to get through it on the brighter side. I respect my job, too, because GSA provided a lot of professional development for me. Within GSA, they pay for courses, I have to state that led me to get my MBA. Okay, so I can't say they paid for my MBA because they did not. They just paid for courses, and those courses led to my MBA, okay? I also obtained my PMP, so I'm a project management professional that I retained through my job. So that's why I'm loyal to Mason, because they have been so good to me, and that's why I've been there for 15 years as different roles. Outside of GSA, I'm also currently an adjunct professor at Mason. I teach Business 103, and I'm also a Friends of the Board for the Alumni Board. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let me start off with a question I think that's probably germane to a lot of these, and you guys can think about this. What is the biggest mistake that you see students make in the hiring process?
I could jump in on that one.
Okay.
A bunch of people. Number of things. One, people really don't know what they're looking for. A lot of people will walk into my office, an interview situation, and they really don't know what to say about what they want to accomplish for themselves. Not exactly the most comforting thing to hear on my side. But the other thing is they don't really bring a lot of energy, surprisingly. Maybe it's nerves, maybe something like that. But I'm always looking for people that are high energy, want to go out and make things happen. So energy is a huge one. The other thing I really look for, and this isn't necessarily something you can fix quickly, but I look for work history. I want to see that people have experience going out, working, know what it's like, not necessarily in an office, whether it be at a restaurant, whether it be retail. Doesn't really matter, just a history of going out and being willing to work. No matter where you go, there's not too many jobs out there that don't require some elbow grease and some effort, especially starting off out of college. No one's really going to hand you anything unless you have some in that I don't know about. But I look for that work history. So even if you can't go back to high school, you can't go back to freshman year necessarily and just add a bunch of random jobs. But even just that desire going out, getting something there and explaining why you did it, to me shows motivation. So.
Thank you. Anybody else want to pick up on that? Michael?
Following what Brian said, I think it's important, even if you have limited job experience, to be comfortable in your own skin. And by that, I mean you're a student. You don't have that much experience yet. Be comfortable with that. One of the things, and this is not something that just plagues young people, but people of all ages, is don't be afraid to say, I don't know, or I don't know how to do that. Too often in the workplace, people won't admit what they don't know or can't do, and it creates problems. But just be comfortable with the fact that you're young. And as Brian said, be comfortable with that. Show that you're eager to learn. Show that you're respectful of other people's experience and authority. Show that you'd be like a good person to have around. You've got a smile on your face. You've got a good attitude. Those things matter. Those are the things that people in a hiring situation, at a basic level, you look at a person and go, do I really want to be around this person all day? Because if you're going to work with them, you're going to be like that. So just be comfortable with who you are and be able to express your thoughts. I was talking to a couple of young ladies during our networking phase, and we were talking about if you're going to be in marketing, the importance of writing. You don't have to be a poet, but you have to be able to write clearly. And an adjunct to that, you have to be able to speak clearly. You have to be able to speak what's on your mind. So when you're in an interview setting or in any phase of looking for a job, you're going to be communicating with potential employers, either in face-to-face, on the phone, or in writing, and all of that matters. You can't have typos. You can't speak ungrammatically. All of that stuff matters. All of that stuff people are looking for. They're looking for the little things you're going to fall down on. If you keep it basic, maybe some of you have heard an aphorism that was attributed to a comedian named Woody Allen. He said 80% of success is just showing up. And part of showing up is just the basic stuff. It's basic stuff. Dressing right, speaking right, writing clearly, having a smile on your face, just being comfortable with who you are. That stuff really matters.
Thank you. Anybody else want to pick that?
Yeah, I still use the same book that I was given here in 1989, How to Get Hired in Today's Market by Robert Half. And I love that book, right? It just went through 4 things that you just have to come across with the other person. And it was all said here, right? Right? Like, you guys wouldn't know if I'm an introvert or an extrovert. Clearly, I'm an extrovert, right? I love people, right? If you like people, right? A lot of it is chemistry. Who's interviewing you? I've come here several times and recruited people for on-campus recruiting when I was with the accounting firms, right? Now I'm a federal investigator with the IRS, right? I investigate people, companies, entities, everything and anything that involves taxes, which is pretty much as soon as you wake up and walk out your front door, it involves, taxes, right? At the federal and state level. But my point is just to Google something, how to get hired, right? It's all a game, really. The marketing is you. You need to market yourself, right? I know this is for marketing when you get into a company, right? Like somebody marketed to me, or otherwise I wouldn't have spent the money I spent on a Corvette, right? I wouldn't spent the money I spent on this Harley Davidson leather jacket, right? This stuff is not cheap, right? And then I have friends who would be like, "That's crazy. Why did you buy that Corvette?" He's like, "I'm so happy with my 1990 Prius or whatever," right? So I guess that's the biggest takeaway is to practice, right? Before I graduated here, we were practicing, like Emily would ask me interview questions, and we would practice because you got to practice, right? Perfect practice. Good results.
Okay, Emily, you want to take that? Some part of that, or switch into question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone has said so far. I think that's some really solid advice. Where you're at right now, like Michael said, you're the next 5 years of your life are going to be to learn when you graduate, right? Like you're not going to come in and take over the company at 22. As much as wouldn't that be great? It's not going to happen. But I think, the confidence and the attitude that you bring is what attracts employers to you, right? So you're just getting out of school. You haven't worked full time. Your resume is not, beefy yet. But be confident in yourself and your abilities and what this school has taught you, because you bring something different and unique to the table, even if you haven't worked. And at the end of the day, you're going to learn what you need to learn. So don't worry about going into an interview and not knowing the answer. Again, I think being okay with saying I don't know, but I can find out is a huge characteristic that not a lot of people are comfortable with themselves enough to admit. And people recognize that that attitude, and that will take you very far in your career. But what everyone has said here is really great, and I completely agree with the advice that has already been said.
Okay. Did you want to add to that? Or?
Yeah, just real quick. So I was on an interview panel a couple, like before the end of last year. And so we had to interview someone for a position in my office. And one thing that really struck me is take your time, ask the interviewers to repeat the questions back, okay? During that time, you have a couple seconds to get your answer together. Write it down. I was very impressed with those who took the time to write their questions down and then kind of provide the answer. So that was really good. That struck with me. And also do your research of the position, too. I'm trying to ask questions that's already in the job description, but like do your research about the company, the office, and the position. But definitely pause, write down the questions, and make sure sometimes, I know it depends what level, like we was hiring for a mid-level position, some questions would have different components. Make sure you answer all the questions, because we did, when we was writing off, like, oh, they didn't answer part B. So make sure you answer all the different components to a question.
Okay, let me ask a slightly different. Oh, okay. Sure.
Put a question out to the audience first.
Sure.
Since this session is about marketing, just to make sure we're all on the same page, I'd like to hear from the students about what they think marketing is, what their understanding of marketing is, so we can kind of address maybe some fallacies, or at least be able to talk to what you think you might be interested in. Okay. So, some of you have taken marketing classes, and some of you haven't. If you have a definition of what you think marketing is, just raise your hand and shout it out. Anybody? Go right ahead.
Well, I'm not a marketing major or anything, and I'm just a freshman, so I'm kind of exploring everything. But in my mind right now, marketing is like interacting with your audience and knowing your audience and being able to approach that well and understand them.
That's correct. Yes?
Piggybacking off of that also description of marketing, I think it's also being able to convey the message that you have intended for that person. I think a big part of understanding your audience is also being able to convey the thing that you want.
Can you all hear that in the back? Yeah, go ahead.
All right, who else? Grace?
He always singles me out.
Okay.
There were a couple of hands up.
I guess my definition of marketing mostly focuses on just building a relationship with your customer or consumers beyond just the profit, a bit like beyond the bottom line, so that they, I guess, build some loyalty to who, your company and your organization.
That's very important these days. It wasn't always the case.
Who else? You want to do it? Okay. Then pass it to the
I liked what you said. It's about understanding who you're marketing to, 100%. And we're talking about that in multicultural marketing right now, of asking the right questions, which I thought was really interesting to ask the right questions and then get your approach of what you want to say out correctly to them.
I agree with all of that, but not only to who you're marketing, but what you're marketing, a variety of, products and ideas that you make come true in a way. So I think it's not all about the consumer, but also about the products and overall.
I'd say that in the long term, it's about having a good reputation, being trusted by a large population, by a large audience. In the short term, it's about making your ideas attractive, your concept attractive. That's what
Anybody else? All right. Yeah, they got it right. What do you think?
How many of you, just show of hands, have since you got to Mason, you've wanted to be in marketing in some way or another? So maybe about 40% of you. How many of you are just thinking about, you're at the point where you're starting to think about jobs, you don't really know much about marketing, but you came today because, it's an opportunity to learn about the field. Don't be shy, raise your hand. Okay, so maybe a third of you, and then there are a few didn't raise their hands. Okay, so you've got I would say about half and half. Some of you kind of have a good idea of what marketing is and you know what you want to do, and the other half just kind of exploring it. Okay, so we know what to talk to. Okay.
You guys do they got it right?
I thought they did a good job.
Okay. Are you giving grades?
That's your job.
That's mine. Okay. Okay, let me ask the panel to sort of come back to their own experience, and as these folks are making selections about courses they have to take and what they have to do in their study, etc., Anything you wish you had done here in school that you didn't have a chance to, or you messed up, or you flunked, or I don't know what? Say, okay, this would help me as I'm progressing.
Jump in there. Here. Just going through the School of Management, you end up in a lot of classes where you have to talk. One of the regrets I have is I think there was more classes I could have taken that could have gotten me engaged, or the classes I had opportunities to engage, I didn't engage as often. I think actually talking, getting up, saying things, not, as Jeff said in the beginning, hiding in the back of the room is very easy in some of these classrooms. And I think I look back and I'm like, wow, that experience would have been really nice. You get out into the real world, you're expected to say something. You're expected to bring something to the table, or you're not going to be there very long. One way or another. Not to say that, you hide too much in the back room, you're going to get fired right away. But I think just taking advantage of the opportunities to get out of your comfort zone as much as possible, because that's really what's going to push you to be successful. Nothing in the real world is usually comfortable.
Shawn T first and then Emily, okay?
So I think one thing that I wish that I have done when I was in college was have done study abroad. I wish I had took opportunity I think I was just I'm from a small town, was kind of nervous leaving. I'm like, I don't know. But in my MBA program, we were able to do it for a week. We went to Prague. It was the best experience in my life. And then that's what made me think, man, I should have done this for the whole semester. So if you can, if you have the right resources and stuff, I said study abroad. That is one of my regrets.
Let me just, to build on to that one, on the 14th of this month, there is a fair, the GEO Fair, the Global Education Office. And if you want to follow up on that suggestion, this is where you can go and find out all the programs that are available in the next short period of time. Emily?
Yeah, I also wish I would have studied abroad. It's one thing I feel like I missed my window on when I was at Mason. But at the same time, I had a lot of great experiences here. I would say recognize that the projects that you're doing in your classes, it's not just work that your professors assign so that they can go home and read your 50-page paper. That's something that can become a portfolio for you when you graduate. And I don't think for the beginning of my college career here, I recognized that I was building a collection of content that I can show my employers and saying, I've made marketing plans and I've done market research and I have examples of papers that I've written or, content that I've created. And that's where you can balance out, maybe you don't have experience, but you have this, you're going to walk away from 4 years with 120 credits that are tied to projects and things you've created and content that you've built. Take it seriously so that you don't have to build a whole new portfolio. You've got 4 years that you just paid for of content that you can show employers to say, hey, I know how to make a marketing plan. I know how to do all of this, and here's...
I can write clearly.
Yeah, I can write, I can design, whatever you're passionate about. Don't miss that opportunity. And then something that I did do at Mason was that I would recommend is just get involved. There's a lot going on campus. I was in so many clubs here, and whether it was working in admissions or getting involved in other student organizations, get involved. It will change your experience, and that includes interning, not just active things on campus. We live in the Washington, D.C. area. There's so much out there, so definitely take advantage of the opportunities here.
I have something to add. My first real job out of college in New York City was working for a really large ad agency. There were about 1,000 people in the office in New York. And I discovered, I was only there a year and a half, but I discovered I'm not a big company animal. I just did not like being a small cog, especially I was right out of school, a really small cog, in a big machine. I discovered that I'm a small company person. And the smaller the company, the more responsibility and the more control you have right from the get-go over what you do on a daily basis. And the larger the company, the less control over what you have, and the less variety over what you do. So I would say that if the one thing I regret is that I didn't have that experience while I was in college in terms of internships to figure that out. Because that's one of the things you have to think about. Are you the kind of person who's going to be comfortable working in a really large organization with a lot of people where you have sort of a narrow, defined level of responsibility, or in a small company where literally the first day you walk in, the boss is going to go, we need somebody to do this. Would you do it? And that's where you're going to learn how to do it. And I thrive on that because I really want, you have more control, you'll learn a lot faster. So I would say if you have the time, do that. Get an internship at a really big organization and then get an internship at a really small one and see what you like better. Because once you figure that out, that's going to really narrow your path into kind of jobs you're going to want to look at.
And I would add, sorry, if I can just add on that too. For me, that's exactly what I did at Mason, right? My first internship, I worked at a startup that had 3 employees and me. And my last internship, I was working at a Fortune 500 company with 15,000 employees. And on top of size, I think what's important is also change industry with every internship you do, because you're going to learn a lot from experiencing different industries and seeing how different businesses operate. That will also teach you some different things and maybe help you find your passion a little bit more too.
Okay, let me just follow up on Michael's point to get the other side of that, which is you folks who work for larger companies like the government, okay, what are the advantages of working for a big firm? What you're there. Why? What do you enjoy most about big firm? Or a lot of people.
Sure.
Don't fight.
Well, let's see. I worked for a CPA firm with 2 people, and then I worked for Ernst & Young, right, and Price Waterhouse, and I worked for the IRS as an investigator, right, for the last 9-10 years. And I'll be 52 years old, right? For me now, my life has changed, right? Because I already did the 20 years in a house with the stay-at-home mom, with the 2 cars and the dog, right? So for me, I love getting off work at 3 o'clock, right? I've ran 5 marathons. I'm getting ready to run a 6th marathon. In the last 3 days, I've run 25 miles. I'm going to run 70 miles this week, right? My life has changed, right? I ride a motorcycle. I drive a Corvette, right? So you guys are in, your early 20s? Or it doesn't matter, right? What I wish I had anything I wish I had done when I was your age, I wish I hadn't worried so much about the future. I wish I had lived more in the present.
So the main thing with working in a large organization, talking about the federal government, is definitely the resources. Even though we are very cost efficient, I guess you can say, we have to be careful of how we use our money, because we're using taxpayer money, so thank you. So we do have to be careful, but it's the available resources that they can use for different stuff, like professional development, training, stuff like that. So that's what I get out of working at a larger organization. One thing, too, about internship I just want to mention is sometimes you have to think outside the box. For me, when I was at Mason, I did not have a car. I didn't want a car right now. I was just focused on paying for school. I didn't want to have other outside expenses. But as they say, you have to have an internship. So I thought outside the box. I network. So you're going to hear that word a lot, networking, especially in my class. You're going to hear about networking. So in networking, I reached out to she was in charge of the communication and marketing at the School of Business, the School of Management back then. And I just introduced myself and said, hey, I'm interested. I'm interested in the opportunity. So she provided me a work-study program to be her intern during that time for a whole year, my senior year. So it was a great opportunity, and I still talk to her. We still keep in touch. So sometimes, I guess my point is, if you're not able to get an internship outside, think outside the box. There's ways to get that extra experience.
Okay, thanks.
Can I
Go ahead. Sure.
Yeah. So resource definitely is a big thing. I'm private sector, so money's a little bit different when you're not working for the government. But Oracle is about 150,000 employees worldwide, so it's just a huge company, and it is a beast and an animal to work with that many people. But I think I really love my personality. I love that I go into work every day and can meet someone new and talk to someone new. And if you really thrive on like that constant energy of being surrounded by new faces, I think the corporate environment might be a good fit for you. But I think resources and the the environment that you get when you have a lot of new faces, if that excites you. I really love that part of my job.
Okay, here's what I want to do is I'm going to ask the panel one more question, and then we're going to open up to you guys on the floor. And so you should be thinking about questions you want to ask them before we go into networking, but just to give you a chance there. And that is, panel, what is it about a Mason student that puts them different, or a Mason person compared to somebody else or yourself? I mean, what is, it's sort of, as these people go out, they're going to put on their resume that they went to George Mason. And what does that mean? What does Mason mean in terms of you, your satisfaction, and what you think is happening out in marketing? Oh, you guys are thinking of questions too. Okay.
Well, since I've been involved with the alumni chapter for 10 years now, and we get some feedback from employers in the region about Mason applicants and Mason employees. The reputation for Mason is that students are scrappy, and scrappy is a good thing. Scrappy means that you don't take your education and the reputation of the educational institution that issued you a degree for granted, that you don't assume any special privileges because you went to an elite college. That George Mason is kind of a lunch bucket college. You earned your degree. Most students here are from middle class, even lower middle class backgrounds, a lot of international students. There aren't a lot of silver spoons and mouths here. And employers like that. I remember my daughter, who did not go to Mason, she went to Madison, but she went on an interview, and that's right. Madison, she had a good experience at Madison. And she went on an interview and I guess mentioned that her dad had an MBA from Mason. And he said, you know what? We love Mason students. We love Madison students because they don't come in here and think that they're at any sort of status because they went to William and Mary or UVA. And he said, frankly, we get a lot of graduates from those schools who think because they have those degrees that they're a cut above other graduates, and they're basically at the same building block level as anybody else. So they kind of like the fact that that Mason students are hard workers. And that's the reputation that you have going out into the marketplace.
Okay. Anybody else want to pick that up?
I mean, well, go for it.
Yeah, having worked 27 years now for 13 different organizations, I love the diversity here at Mason, right? But honestly, again, it all just goes back to you as the individual and you doing the right thing and you being able to look at yourself in the mirror every day and be happy with yourself because you've done the right thing today. And that's all you really ever have to worry about is just do the right thing today, live in today, don't worry about the future because what you do today matters. Get out of your comfort zone, make friends. I'm still friends with people from high school. I'm still friends with people from here, from 1989, right? I've been told to stick with the winners. I've stuck with the winners.
So I was just going to jump in there for kind of what Michael was saying about being the scrappers and stuff like that. I actually manage a couple people from UVA. Nothing wrong with the school. The mentality is a little bit different. I have noticed. Great people. They're capable, but it takes a little while for them to break into what real life is kind of like with some of that stuff. Just my observation on it. But one of the things I am very proud of is my story through Mason. I know my wife went to Nova before she came here. Maybe some of you guys also went to Nova before you came here. It's just a desire to get an education. But it's a story. I've been able to tell my story in interviews. I'm proud of my story in terms of working, commuting an hour each way to school, putting 12 hours of classes in one day, try to cut back on my commute so I could work more. I think there's so many of those stories that are sitting out there amongst all of you about what you had to do to be here, to get here, to stay here. And I think that's one of those things you shouldn't really give up on. I think you should always keep that close. Don't be ashamed of where you come from and what you had to do to be here. Me and my wife had a little bit of help with college, but certainly not all of it. But we didn't graduate with any debt. Big sacrifice on our part, but again, I all the kids I went to school with, I saw much of the same. They were going to work. after class. They were doing that sort of stuff, and I think that's an amazing work ethic, and one that I've always noticed here on campus is it's usually not as much fun as I'm sure you guys have on occasion. It's also a very dedicated student body. I've always really liked that, so I think you definitely carry that going out.
Yes. Michael reminded me that we really should talk about marketing on there. So, but what I would like to do is sort of ask a question on there. And again, you guys are thinking of questions about, what do you think marketing is? And probably, let me add to that, what do you think marketing is that's different from what the faculty told you?
Well,
faculty aren't perfect, by the way.
He works in an organization that really encompasses everything about what modern marketing is. So I'm interested to hear her perspective. But we give out business awards, so we monitor business activity worldwide. And how many of you ever watched the TV show Mad Men about advertising? So big agency advertising used to be equated with marketing. So back in the day when everybody watched the same 3 channels, TV channels, and there was no internet, and everybody read the same newspapers, and everybody listened to the same radio stations, marketing and advertising were the same thing, because if you put out a new car, you put an ad in the newspaper, everyone saw it, right? But you can't do that these days. There's the marketplace, the media marketplace is so fractured that you can put 10 people in a room and everybody looks at different TV channels, they look at different websites. It's hard to market now. So marketing now, to kind of summarize, and again, Emily's in a position to elaborate on this, you've got sort of the creative side, which incorporates traditional advertising in different forms now, and social media. You've got in brand management, that's kind of in one bucket on one side. But where the real money in advertising now is in data science. Right? So it's not in the creative part of advertising, but it's in analyzing audiences so that you can fine-tune what you're spending on marketing to just the people who might be interested in your product.
That's right here.
Yeah. Let me just, I want to get to Emily, but Shawn T and I were talking about this beforehand. You want to follow up on that?
Well, yeah, I'm into data science right now. I'm a data analytics specialist at GSA. I started off as a marketing specialist, contracting, went to marketing specialist. But I love numbers, but I love marketing too. So I was able, once again, network, and I was able to get into marketing research. So that is correct. Data analysis is like really the new trend right now. And then what I like to tell students is really know more than just Excel. If you could know a lot of the tools like Tableau, MicroStrategy, there's so many tools here, that would give you a competitive advantage. Because a lot of employers are looking for that. Do you know the actual tools? And I think that's important right now, is keeping a line. With me, marketing was so different when I graduated. Can you believe we didn't have social media when I graduated? Like, social media just started. Like, seriously, we had AOL. That was the little social media. So you would type something, go to your computer, they type back. We didn't, we didn't have all that stuff that is like now. So I was like, wow. So as a marketing professional, I'm still keeping myself engaged with what's going on. And so it doesn't matter what industry that you all in. You could be in accounting, you could be finance. Keep learning, okay? Because industry changes, okay? So now with this whole boom with, analyzing data, that's the new trend right now. I mean, they don't even call it marketing research right now, right? So therefore, that's what I'm saying. Know the tools. Even talk to your professor, because they know what's going on. They learning too, right? They teach you, but they keep learning too. So definitely be a student. Be a student for life. That's the thing.
Emily, let's bounce up to you. You can follow up on what Michael's comments were.
Yeah, sure. So like Michael said, you have the two sides. I've done both. My last job before Oracle, I was doing social and digital marketing. That was on the more creative side, and I was on Photoshop every day, and I was editing video content and creating content calendars. But even on that side, I think no matter what, whether you want to do the creative side or whether you want to do the data science, deep in the numbers, Tableau, research kind of marketing, the numbers are at the core of all of it, right? So you can say, I want to do social and work for BuzzFeed and post cute dog pictures all day, but those don't resonate unless you're putting them to the right people and looking at the numbers behind the success of those things to alter your next campaign, right? So take time to really understand the math behind marketing and the math behind understanding your audience to build demand and to alter what you do based on that foundational data that living in 2019 and working in 2019, we have so much access to, right? There are some incredible tools that we can use now and learn, take time to do some research on what those big marketing tools are. But even to plug an Oracle product, looking at like Eloqua is a tool we use, and the amount of information that you can learn about the people that you're communicating with is going to change how you build those campaigns and how you build a brand. And I think diving into that is really important. And I think if you can tell your employers that you understand the importance of data, it makes a difference, because not every young professional gets that. And a lot of young people want to get into these marketing careers and just have fun and do events and make pretty campaigns, but don't understand that there's a second follow-up side to everything we do that's numbers driven. And that's where you start to really see success, when you can look at the content that you've created critically and say, where did we fail? Where did we win? And how do we flip those failures into more successful leads for the next iteration of what we do?
And let me just say, too, I have to give a disclaimer. I'm not endorsing any of these tools, because I cannot, as my role, endorse these tools. I'm just saying I use this as my current job. So let me put that out there as a government. Federal government, I cannot endorse, Tableau, MicroStrategy. I'm just saying these are the tools that we use, but there's so many others. So do your research, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I got something to throw out there. All those tools sound really cool. I am not mathematical. I am not good at the data analysis part. I'm super impressed by what I hear on both sides of me, but that is just, it's not really me. But one of the things the other side of marketing for me is the one-on-one, the relationship component that I get to develop just as a salesperson with people, which I think is, when you guys define marketing, it's reaching out to an audience, it's being persuasive. That personal side is sales. It's going out there and being able to market yourself, market what you're selling, but directly, not through, again, the creative means, which can be a lot of fun. I've had the chance to dabble a little bit in the Photoshop stuff, but definitely also not me. But it's the way you can creatively go out of conversation. I described it to someone a little bit earlier. I look at every conversation as a puzzle that I get to approach. And I think that's the other side. And I think it was mentioned before, like going out and serving, going out and interacting with people is a huge aspect of marketing, because if you can't relate to people, if you don't know people, you're not going to succeed. That data can only go so far. There's a person, there is a personality, an emotion on the other side. It's all useful. Everything that you're hearing here is relevant and useful. But you don't need to be something you're not either. And I'm not ever going to pretend like I'm going to know or understand Tableau, because it's probably not going to happen for me. But I don't need to. I love working with people, and that works for me. Understand who you are and what you want out of a career. You don't need to force yourself into something. But again, they're great technologies. I know they're used. I know areas of my company use them. But there's so many avenues with marketing that I didn't realize existed. When I first went to school here, and as I looked at all the classes, you only have so much time to take so many electives before you have to graduate and leave. Well, I probably should be graduating and leaving, but there's so many aspects that you can be a part of, and I think stuff like this can help you explore those. But talk to people, talk to your peers, talk to people that are in the marketplace. Find a way to connect with those people, and you can realize there's so much more to this than just one or two aspects.
It's not just big companies that use software tools. Just about every business of any size now uses what are called marketing automation tools. And we use the one that's used by most small businesses called HubSpot. Yep. And it manages your email marketing list. You can do email marketing through it. You can post social media through it.
You can also get HubSpot certified online for free if you want to pick up a new skill to throw on your resume.
So if you have a marketing internship, especially at a small company, you'll find tools like this. And there are other ones like Marketo. There's lots of different ones. But if you can get some experience using one of those tools, so that when you're going out to look for a job, to say that you have experience using it, and that has a whole data analytics side. So it'll tell you who's clicking on the links in your emails and who's looking at your social media postings. There's a lot of tools. We pay $750 a month, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not for these tools, and we couldn't live without it. So if you have experience, just about any business you're going to go into, especially a small business, is going to use a tool like that. So if you have experience using it, that's good.
I'm going to let Ritu. You want to finish up, or should we go to questions? You guys got questions? Okay, go. Sure. Yes, you do.
Hi. So I first just want to thank you guys for coming out today. Appreciate it. So can you guys just tell me like what a typical day would look like, and are you happy with it? That's a great question.
Well, when you think about the large company versus small company question I posed earlier, you're going to have much more command over your daily schedule at a small organization than at a large organization. If you're more comfortable being the captain of your day, and the smaller the organization, the bigger the captain you are, you determine what you do on a daily basis. You're going to want to be in a small company, but your role is going to be much more regimented in a large company. So I wasn't comfortable going to a big ad agency every day and basically having somebody tell me what I was going to do on that day, literally every day. I'm a control freak. I want to be in control. So there's not really an answer to that question. It really depends on the industry you're in. It depends on the size of the company, and it depends on what your role is. But just think about it. How much control do you want over what you do on a daily basis? If you really if you're a control freak, you're probably not going to be happy at Oracle, or you're not going to be happy at the IRS or GSA, and they're just too big. You're not going to have that option.
A typical day for me is I used to have to be able to bring in business. I used to be able to have to bring in 3.5 times my salary when I was making over $100,000 a year in the private sector, right? That was tough. It's tough to get people to change. And because I was very involved and I networked like crazy, I was able to set up business meetings and luncheons and get on board with proposals as far as when I was trying to bring in someone, right? I mean, look at your parents, right? Do people like change? People do not like change, right? So me trying to convince someone to say, hey, hire my CPA firm because, I'm ratio and I'm extroverted, so hire us, right? It's hard to get people to change. I love how are you happy, right? To me, happy is a feeling, right? And feelings are not real, right? Happy is just a feeling, right? Like I'm happy talking to you guys, right? Here's a great example. So I've been now with the IRS as investigator for 9 years. What I love about my job is I get to use my professional judgment. I'll give you one example. I went out and investigated someone, right, because of their tax return looked a little odd. So here's the facts of the case. He had bought a tractor trailer, those tractor trailers, like the grocery stores here would all be empty. There'd be nothing if it wasn't for tractor trailers, right? So he bought a tractor trailer, had his own business, and he loved it. He got another tractor trailer. He had to hire a driver. He could not find a driver that was committed as well as he was. He lost both because if you are late on one payment, right, you're gone. If you miss one credit card payment, your interest rate goes from 4% to 30%, right? I'm an accountant, so accrual, it's an accrual world. Anyways, the beauty of my job was that I was able to use empathy now with my job. It wasn't technical at all, right? Versus when I was at the CPA firm, I had to find the wealthiest people who was willing to pay me $800 to $1,200 an hour, right? Now I get to deal with people at a people level. But, of course, I'm 51 years old. I don't know, when I was 20, I was just all about the money. But now I seem to be more altruistic.
It depends on where you are in your career. It can definitely depend. That as my career has gone on, 5 years, not necessarily a lifetime, but it's changed. When I first started, I didn't really know a lot about my industry. I made a whole heck of a lot of phone calls. People I didn't know, trying to develop relationships, trying to figure out how to sell what my product was and get comfortable. And sometimes failing is the only way to do that. So there's a whole heck of a lot of that. As I progressed, my days would kind of change from making a whole bunch of cold calls into making a whole bunch of warm calls, calling the people I already knew, developing relationships with them. I mean, one of my favorite parts about my job is I get to call people I like, that I want to keep around and really just chat. What do you think of the Super Bowl? Didn't it suck? All that sort of stuff. That's basically what my weeks look like this week. It's kind of like deja vu, having the same conversation with a bunch of people. But for me, I come in and I try to source out new opportunities in a company. I look out to my network. I continue to develop those relationships, hopefully close a deal or two along the way with everything. Go to meetings. It's part of anything. In sales, hopefully you're not going to too many meetings. As my career's grown, I have more and more meetings I go to. But, in those meetings, I mentioned it earlier, a chance to talk, chance to make your opinion heard. I don't think you realize how influential your words can be, even at a young age or early in your career at these meetings, or how that could influence how you grow in your own career because you can become visible. But that's one of the ways I got to where I was, by speaking up. But going to those meetings, making cold calls, making warm calls, getting to know people, and in the middle of all that, there's a whole bunch of management and a whole bunch of learning.
Sure. So Oracle is kind of like the Home Depot of technology companies, right? We do hardware, software, and middleware. So with a company that big, you kind of have to break everything down. I work on the software side, and then segmented even more. I work for our cloud technologies division of the business, right? So anything related to cloud that we sell and create, I do marketing for. What that looks like can be an umbrella of different things. So whether it's workshops that we're running, or to help customers understand the product more and get more usage and time, actually fingers on keyboard with the product, or webinars. We do a lot of live webinars that have whole marketing campaigns behind them. So I'm looking at what technologies are big right now, what are people interested in, and saying, okay, buzzword topic right now in the cloud world is blockchain. So let me think end to end of creating what do we have blockchain wise as an asset that's ready to deliver to a customer? How do we set that up as a webinar? How do I market it to the people that want to see it and get it in front of the right eyes? How do I design the email campaign, build the web page, create any assets related to that, all of that? And then on the other side, that's kind of the traditional marketing, right, that you might textbook see. I'm doing that day to day. And then I'm also doing asset management. So what do we have available to show customers? How do I bring customers in to do face-to-face interaction? Because that obviously leads to more understanding of our product. And then how do I follow up? If I run an event, so a week ago, I brought in 100 customers from a company that we are partnered up with, showed them a bunch of solutions, talked to them about products, we ideated, we thought about, what kind of things we can build for them. And then how do I follow up? How do I design email campaigns that engage them? And how do I build out those nurture campaigns to keep them engaged and keep them interested and keep conversations open? So I think the answer is, like you said, we all do different things every day, but those are kind of the main areas that I work on.
I spoke earlier, but actually didn't answer your question, so I'll answer it now. What do I do on a daily basis? I'm a marketing person. I was VP of Sales and Marketing with a bunch of .coms before I started the Stevie Awards. And so I'm an entrepreneur now as well as a marketing person. And the first thing I think about every morning is who's trying to eat my lunch today? Who's trying to take what I have today? We don't really have competitors. There's sort of companies that do what we do, but we're sort of unique in what we do. But I can't take for granted that there isn't somebody who's trying to do something bigger and better than me. So every entrepreneur will tell you the same thing. You wake up in the morning, you think, who's trying to murder me today? But the young woman who left, she pointed out astutely when we asked earlier what marketing is. She said, it's not just about selling things to people. It's about engaging people, about creating a community around your product or your company. And that's something I think about every day is, we have we have customers. The companies who send us nominations are our customers, and we have pretty high retention. They enter year after year, but we can't take for granted that they're just going to come back and be a participant every year. We have to keep them engaged on a if not a daily basis, at least a monthly basis. There has to be some reason to communicate with people. It used to be that marketing communication was all one way. Here's our ad. Go to the dealership, buy the car. Go to the supermarket and buy that can of Del Monte beans. But it's not. It's marketing now is two-way. It's about you have an outbound communication about what your product or service is about, but then people are coming back to you and saying, we like this, we don't like this, why aren't you doing this? How do we get more engaged with your product? And you have to have an answer to that. So that back and forth is the basis of community, and you have to always be thinking about, am I doing enough? Is somebody now doing something better? How do I change what I'm doing to stay current with what people are expecting? So right after every morning, I think about who's trying to kill me today. I think about, what is it we are doing that we shouldn't be doing anymore, or that we should be doing that we're not doing. No, I don't think that way. No, I'm very positive that way. I think about creating, not destroying.
Okay, so I'm going to keep my response really short for you all because I know it's been a long day. So real quick, on a day-to-day basis, my function changes from, all-day meetings to customer meetings, off-sites, to being on the computer all day analyzing data. To answer your question about the happiness, I do agree that I don't like that word happy because happy can change. You know what I mean? One day it could be, oh, my gosh, and, it's very frequent. So I don't use that word happy, but I use that word content. I am content in my job because there's room for growth. Their work-life balance benefits that they have is great, so that gives me contentment. So that's how I like to see it as.
Okay, let me just take a quick temperature check, okay? Have you guys ever got questions you want to ask them individually for like a networking session? You should be thinking about that. Okay, so let me do this. Let me take about one more good question. Okay, good questions over there? Okay. I hope so. Okay, hold on. And then I want to make sure that we all have a chance to do that and meet with people before the clock strikes midnight, okay? So I will do two questions. Go ahead.
So my thing is, I know that the field of marketing is very competitive and it's very performance driven. I mean, at least in the most positions. How do you stay motivated? What drives you to stay in your position and do well?
That's a good question.
Okay. Briefly, guys, what do you want to say?
I mean, I'll jump on it. It depends on who you are. It depends on what you want. It's funny. When I first started my career, and I'm in sales, have been for 5 years. It's hard. It's hard starting a career in sales. I mean, it's hard starting a career at all in these things. And I actually had to really look at what motivates me because I had to stay in that career in sales. I didn't want to move, and I really had to ask, well, what keeps me coming in? At first, for me, I always wanted to provide for my family, so that was kind of a personal reason for everything. But when I actually look back in hindsight, at it, that's not really what kept me going. I wanted to win. I was competitive, and I think all of us can maybe look inside ourselves. Do we want to be the best? Do we not? Are we okay with that? It doesn't make you a bad person. You just have to figure, is that something that really truly motivates me, not just internally, but to action, to do more? I mentioned money motivated. I mean, there's a lot of careers within marketing that can be very, very money motivated. Everything at the end of the day, I think most human beings can be motivated by money. So that can keep you going with everything. Sometimes it's just a desire to grow, ambition. Again, like anything you do, I mean, ambition can drive you, but it really does depend on who you are. But all those things are what I see on a daily basis and kind of affected me.
I'm going to go to Shawn T because you get the last two.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think my motto is I always want to be a better person than I was yesterday. So that's how I live by. I try to just learn as much as I can and just take each day, So, yeah, just be a better person than yesterday.
I also think a big element for me, I love the people I work with, and that environment makes a huge difference. And I get excited to go in and engage with my team and the other people I see, not even just on work, but on life. And then on the flip side, I guess, with my career-wise outside of I love working with the people that I'm with, I love making people excited about our brand and about the products in the portfolio and showing them the really cool stuff we're doing, and getting people, as a marketer, getting to connect the dots for people between, for that is really exciting.
Yeah, if you're a marketer at heart, you're a creator. And for me, satisfaction, there was a famous book by a man named Ted Levitt from Harvard, came out in 1988, I think, called The Marketing Imagination. And I always admired that book because I always thought I had a marketing imagination. And as Emily just alluded to, when you're a marketer, at its heart, you're helping to create something that doesn't exist until somebody buys it, right? So you're creating, if you're at a small company, you're helping to create the image of a company that people worldwide may understand. So if you say to somebody in Belgium, what are the Stevie Awards? If they've heard of it, they know what it is. And me as a marketer, I created that. So you always have that satisfaction, if it's successful, that the Frankenstein monster that you put on the table, saying this is this product or service, and I'm going to call it this, and it does this. When people buy into that, when they understand it and they buy it, I could be 200. If I live to 200 years old and I'm still doing that, it's still satisfying to create. To put life into that Frankenstein monster, and it can stand up and walk around on its own. So if that kind of creative spark brings you to life, then you have a marketing imagination, and that's something that'll power you every day.
Oh, sure. What motivates me is life, man. I love life. So that's all I got.
Your question, and then the last question, we'll switch to networking.
I wanted to ask, so I know that work life is just like life. I know that work becomes like your second home. And like life, you have your highs and lows. So can you please tell us what would you say is the most rewarding part of your job, or the best experience you've had? And also what's the worst part or the worst experience you've had, and how you overcame that?
With good reason.
Well, the best part of work, and this applies whether you have your own company, whether you work at a small company or a big company, if you get up every day and you go to work and you don't feel like you're going to work, you're just doing what you like to do, that's your ideal life. Right? You don't have to have your own company. For me, having my own small company is what makes me happy. I go to work every day. Some days I work 4 hours, some days I work 20 hours, and it never feels, if you can do that, then your life is wonderful. All right? But you don't have to do that for yourself. You can go work for Oracle or the IRS and do that if that's what makes you happy. The thing that I still do that makes me unhappy about what I do is because I am a control freak, I have trouble giving up responsibility to even the people I hire to do the job. So, as I get older, I get better at that. It's like, and one of the things about being an entrepreneur is you have to demand perfection, because something will always go wrong, even if you demand perfection. So if you don't demand perfection, imagine what the mess you'll have. You have to be the person who says, this must be perfect, and demand perfection. Knowing full well it will not be perfect, but if you don't demand perfection, it won't come close. So because I'm that way, I really want to be involved in things and make sure everything's going well. For me, it's hard to give it up. And if you're a small company beast like me, that's kind of the problem that you have, giving up responsibility.
All right, let's go ahead. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can go, sure. As far as I'll start with the hardest thing for me, fear starting my career, or fear that I'm not going to succeed today. And that's me personally, but I think we all have those fears that what if I don't live up to everything I wanted to be? And honestly, that's always been the hardest thing in my career. I love what I do. I love the challenge of it. I think I've had to overcome my own concerns with some of that stuff. In terms of my favorite parts, the pride I feel when I succeed. That pride doesn't exist if you're not afraid, or if there's nothing on the line when it comes to a career. But I have so much pride in what I do. I've been very blessed to be given an opportunity not only to develop my own personal career, but to watch the careers of other people develop, and to watch a business develop. I started in my company, well, not my company, but the division of my company was about 4 people in a room with no windows when I interviewed. And now we've got a much, probably 10 or 20 times the size office, and we're going to be planning out new office space. And I think just watching a literal physical example of growth and success has just given me a lot of pride for what I've accomplished.
So just real quick, too, this is to piggyback what you want to say, but also this is advice for all you all before we end. I just want to say one thing that I can give you all is run your own race. That's the main thing. Run your own race. You're going to have people that you graduate with that maybe, they're going to get promoted before you, that's going to get that higher salary, that position. It's okay. Run your own race. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is find a job, like you were saying, that you love and have a passion in. That's very important. But no, sometimes that takes time. One thing I see in different generations is that some people will get a job, they don't like it, they, job hop, okay? In some employers, that does look bad. That's just my experience. And I'm not saying you have to stay there forever. I'm just saying give it time. To what I was saying, earlier. Some things just takes time, okay? So run your own race, find your passion, but just know, to wait, and things take time to find out what you really want to do. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Can we just make a real big hand for these people? Is that they're going to be here, and so we're going to ask them to get out from behind the table. Okay. But beyond that, give them just about 2 seconds, and then you guys can rush them and ask them questions. Okay. And
Was all the money found, by the way?
Caleb, how long have we got in this room?
Five.
Until 5-ish, okay?
Until 5.
So we got to go. Let's keep going, okay?
Karaoke.
Sure. Oh, yeah, of course. Let me give you my card. Thank you.
So I can trade out with you there.
Sure, of course.
Thank you so much.